My name is Layla, and if you had met me a year ago, you would have met a different woman entirely. I was a Muslim, a faithful one, rooted in the traditions of my family and my heart. My life was structured around the Salah, the 5 prayers, the obedience to the sacred laws, the belief in the one true God, Allah. There was no doubt in my heart, no questioning. My husband, whom I will call only by the memory of his violence, was the keeper of that tradition in our home, a stern, unyielding man who believed my duty was absolute. I found my identity in my submission, my life a quiet tapestry woven with duty and faith. But I never thought I'd be sharing a story like this. After what happened to me, after the violence, after the death, after what I saw, I dare not, stay silent. What I experienced was not a dream, not a hallucination, but a stark, terrifying reality that shattered every single thing I thought I knew about God, about life, and about eternity. I was gone for just a matter of minutes, a medical anomaly, but in that flicker of time, I crossed the line, and Jesus showed me things that are coming, things that are real, and things that every soul on this earth must know. This is my testimony. If you are reading this, please listen with your whole heart. Time is running out. It was just another night in our apartment, a typical evening of tension and silence. It was late 2024. The world outside was consumed with its usual chaos, the scrolling feeds, the political arguments, the constant noise. But our world was small, contained, and governed by strict, unbending rules. The disagreement was petty at first, a small spark about a late meal, but it ignited the rage that was always simmering beneath his surface. He saw disrespect where I intended only exhaustion. He saw challenge where I felt only fear. The violence was not new, but this time was different. It exploded through the quiet apartment with a force that stole my breath and deafened me. The pain was immediate, overwhelming, a blinding white flash that consumed my body. I remember the floor rushing up to meet me, the brutal impact, the metallic scent of blood, and then the crushing weight on my chest. I couldn't breathe. I tried to gasp, to plead, but my lungs refused to move, paralyzed by the sheer, agonizing force. I felt the sharp, sickening crack, and in that instant, I knew this was it. This was the end of Layla, then silence. Not just an absence of sound, but an absence of everything. The searing pain vanished, the brutal weight lifted. I felt an incomprehensible lightness, a sudden, strange release. I looked down and I saw my own body lying there, tragically still on the floor of our home. My husband was standing over me, his face a mask of shock and sudden, dawning terror, not for me, but for his own consequences. I could hear his frantic breathing, the sickening thump of his own heart, but I was disconnected. I was floating above it all, watching this horrific scene unfold like a distant, silent drama. My spirit, my ruh, was being pulled. It wasn't the gentle, peaceful ascent I'd been promised in all my years of devotion. It was a cold, strong, and unrelenting suction, dragging me away from the world I knew. I fought it instinctively. Every fiber of my being wanted to remain, to go back, but there was no resisting this unseen, powerful current. I was being taken, and the direction was terrifying. The world dissolved into a profound, suffocating darkness. It was thicker than any night, heavier than any physical mass. It felt like being submerged in ink or the heaviest, coldest oil. Whispers began to surround me, slithering through the void. They weren't in any language I knew, yet I understood the intent: malice, mockery, profound evil. My mind, so accustomed to the beautiful, ordered prayers and structure of my faith, began to panic. Where am I? This is not the waiting place. This is not the peace. Fear, the cold, stark fear of the unknown, gripped me. I had lived a life of strict religious adherence, believing I had secured my place, but now there was nothing but a void. Then the whispers stopped. The terrible, sinking momentum halted instantly. And then there was light. It was an explosion of pure living luminosity that cut through the absolute darkness like a sword. It didn't just illuminate the space, it created the space. And standing in the midst of it was a figure. A man. My entire life, my entire identity had been built on one truth: there is no God but Allah. To look upon this figure, shining with such holy, unbearable power, was to commit the ultimate unforgivable sin: shirk, the sin of idolatry. My spirit recoiled instantly. Who are you? You cannot be here. I am Layla, a servant of Allah. I worship only one. But I knew. Before he even spoke a word, before I could fully process the face, the eyes, the gentle strength, I knew who he was. And it was the truth that terrified me more than the darkness. It was Jesus. His presence was devastating. It wasn't just physical light, it was a penetrating spiritual fire. It went through me, exposing every single thought I had ever hidden, every resentment, every moment of fear, every prayer offered without true sincerity, every time I had judged another. I felt utterly, completely exposed, naked before an authority that transcended all earthly and religious boundaries. I couldn't move. I couldn't speak. I wanted to avert my gaze, to repeat the Shahada, the declaration of my faith, but the words withered on my tongue. Then he looked at me, and I felt everything in a single crushing wave. Love. Not the conditional, duty-bound love I knew, but an overwhelming, unconditional, all-consuming agape. Yet mingled with it was profound sorrow and disappointment. He spoke, his voice deeper than the sea, softer than a whisper, yet vibrating with the power of creation. It cut through the centuries of tradition and doubt that had defined me. "Layla, do you know why you are here?" I couldn't answer. He didn't wait for my response. He simply lifted his hand, and suddenly I was seeing my life playing out before me, but with his perspective. Every step I had taken, every ritual I had performed, every judgment I had passed. I saw the moments I had chosen pride over humility, the times I had obeyed the law but ignored the heart. My years of fasting and prayer, which I had believed were accumulating merit for my salvation, now felt like dust in the wind, a performance done without true surrender to him. Then the visions changed, twisting into something horrific. I saw the earth convulsing, not in some distant, ancient prophecy, but in a near-future setting, a digital chaos, a spreading sickness of distraction and moral decay. People were consumed by their screens, their minds enslaved by fleeting desires, walking willingly into a fiery destruction. I saw the familiar faces of my community, devout on the outside, their hearts cold and closed. They too were marching toward the abyss, held fast by a rigid self-righteousness that blocked the entrance of this overwhelming light. I couldn't look away. I saw the world burning, not just with fire, but with the inferno of lost souls. And that's when Jesus said something that froze the blood in my veins. This is what is coming. The light around us suddenly faded, and I was plunged into the original darkness. But this time, it was worse because I knew what was in it. It was thick, heavy, suffocating, a cold that was not of the body but of the soul. It wrapped around me like an iron shroud. I felt the pressure of 1,000 eyes watching me, waiting. I wasn't alone. The whispers returned, louder now, sharper, more personal. They spoke to my specific fears, mocking my lifelong devotion. You have committed shirk. You are an apostate. You have lost everything for a lie. I thrashed, trying to fight, desperate to prove my purity, but my spirit was weak, battered by the vision and the overwhelming presence of evil. Then I heard the screams. They were endless, layered on top of each other. Cries of agony, regret, and utter despair. I was falling, plunging down into a terrifying, endless pit. The darkness became fire, not the cleansing fire of judgment, but a consuming, eternal torment. This was hell. I had known the word, feared the concept, but the reality defied all earthly language. The shadowy figures I had sensed earlier materialized into twisted, writhing forms, demons with eyes burning with cold, pure hatred. They reached out, not to drag me, but to simply consume the hope that remained in my soul. I saw faces in the flames, faces of people I had once known in my life, a distant cousin, a neighborhood elder, people who had seemed outwardly righteous. Their eyes locked onto mine, pleading, not for rescue, but for a single drop of water, a single moment of peace. The pain in their eyes, the complete, final knowledge of having been wrong, was unbearable. Then a familiar voice cut through the endless noise. "Layla, help me!" It was the voice of my husband. I saw him, no longer imposing or cruel, but a broken, weeping shadow, consumed by the consequence of his own unrepentant hate and the lives he had destroyed. His eyes, fixed on me, held the purest form of regret, a bottomless, overwhelming self-condemnation. I reached out instinctively, but something strong grabbed my wrist, pulling me up, out of the fire, out of the darkness, out of the screams. "You cannot help them now," Jesus said. I was back in the light, shaking, gasping for breath that wasn't there. Tears streamed down my face. Why? I choked out, the word thick with terror and confusion. Why are they there? Jesus looked at me, his face etched with deep sorrow, because they chose this. They rejected the truth, preferring the comfort of their own certainty and their own will. They lived as if none of this mattered, and when their time came, it was too late. The weight of that truth, the knowledge that people willingly walk toward such suffering, crushed me. And then he said something that amplified the terror I felt. This is only the beginning. Even standing in his light, I felt the presence of the demons, an unseen army lurking just beyond the golden glow. They hadn't gone. They were watching, waiting. I turned and saw them again, dark, shifting, malevolent figures, their hollow eyes burning with a cruel red glow. They were surrounding the light, a silent, ravenous pack. I heard their voices again, not from without, but pushing directly into my mind, attacking my resolve. He is a lie. You are a fool. You will lose your family, your honor, your life for this blasphemy. Go back. You belong to us. I looked at Jesus, desperate for protection, for understanding. Why are they here? Why do they know me? Because every time you chose hatred, every time you performed ritual without love, every time you let fear rule your heart instead of compassion, they gained power over you, Jesus said, his eyes filled with sadness. Every time you sought your own glory instead of mine, they drew closer. I wanted to deny it, but I couldn't. I had sought my own righteousness, my own standing, not his. I had lived under the law, not under grace. The demons grinned, knowing that the foundation of my life had been exposed as faulty. But Jesus wasn't finished. He raised his hand, and the demons shrieked, their horrible forms recoiling, melting back into the void. You must understand, Layla, Jesus said, his voice firm, powerful. The battle is not just for your body. It is for your soul. It is for the right to call you mine. Then everything changed. The surrounding darkness vanished, replaced by an overwhelming sense of majesty. I was standing before something colossal, stretching beyond comprehension. The gates of heaven. They were golden, radiating a light so pure, so vibrant, that the light surrounding Jesus seemed a reflection of it. It wasn't just a place. It felt like the essence of home, the fulfillment of every longing I had ever unknowingly carried. But then I saw the other side. A deep, consuming shadow, an endless void that spread across the horizon opposite the gates. And from within it came the faint, eternal wailing of countless lost souls. The contrast was a crushing weight, eternal warmth and love on one side, eternal cold and suffering on the other. As we approached, I saw masses of people moving toward the gates. Some were walking with a quiet peace, entering easily, embraced by the light. But others, a horrifying number, were being pulled away. An invisible, irresistible force dragged them backward toward the shadows. They screamed, pleading, clawing at the air, begging the gates to open, but the gates stood firm. I stumbled back, shaking. Why? They are crying out for God. They are calling your name. Jesus nodded, his gaze fixed on the wailing crowd. Many used my name, but few truly knew me. They believed they followed me by rule, by tradition, by doctrine, or by fear, but their hearts were far from me. Their faith was a performance for the world, not a surrender to the Father. The gates remained shut to them. Only those who belonged, those who had chosen to truly follow him, walked through in peace. I turned to Jesus, my mind reeling, my life's beliefs crumbling to dust. I had known about him only as a prophet, a man of God, nothing more. But now, standing before him, I knew he was the only way, the ultimate, terrifying truth. His eyes were not merely looking at me, they were looking through me, past the years of strict adherence, straight into the deepest, most vulnerable parts of my identity. And yet the love was still there, overwhelming, unconditional, a divine grace that reached out to the very depths of my unworthiness. I fell to my knees, unable to stand under the weight of his presence. I don't deserve this. I have worshiped differently. I have failed my whole life. Jesus stepped closer. Because I love you, Layla, and I do not want you to be lost. You were never meant to be perfect. You were meant to follow. It is not about earning your place through deeds, but about choosing me. He took a step back, and the ground beneath us trembled. The air grew heavy, and I saw the future again. It was not a distant biblical era, but a world that felt like today, only sharper, darker. The earth tore open in places, catastrophic storms ripped across major cities, and the technology people trusted turned against them. I saw millions running, their digital screens flashing with desperate, futile messages. And in the midst of the chaos, the demonic figures were moving freely, whispering lies through the global network, leading people further into the abyss of addiction, rage, and despair. I turned to Jesus, my voice choked with fear. What is this? His voice was heavy with authority. What is to come if they do not turn back? People are being given warning after warning, but they refuse to listen. Terror gripped my heart. But people don't know. They don't understand the real enemy. Jesus nodded. That is why I am sending you back. I didn't want to go. The terror of the attack, the uncertainty of my future, the absolute knowledge that I would be an outcast, it all made me want to remain in the light. But then Jesus said the words that defined my mission. Tell them, warn them, because soon the door will close. The vision changed immediately. I was looking at people, just regular people, scrolling, laughing, arguing, working their modern, late 2024 lives. But I saw what Jesus saw. I saw the true state of their souls. I watched as people engaged in online gossip, their words turning into foul, dark smoke that wrapped around the ones they spoke about, poisoning their spirits. I saw corporate greed, men hoarding billions while ignoring the suffering, their hands stained with an invisible black thickness. I saw lust and addiction, pulling people into chains that only I could see, their spirits trapped in silent bondage. And worst of all, no one cared. They thought they were free, but they were enslaved. Then Jesus raised his hand, and I saw the chilling mark. People were sealed. Some had a light radiating from them, pure and strong, the seal of the Spirit. But others, millions, had a stain on their foreheads, an invisible mark of darkness that only I could see. I wanted to scream, to shake them awake. Jesus, what happens to them? His voice was firm, terrifyingly final. Unless they turn to me with their whole hearts, they will not enter my kingdom. I broke. I had always believed in a righteous God, but I had believed the righteousness was earned. Now I understood. It's not about earning his name. It's about knowing him, surrendering to him, and letting him remake your heart. Suddenly, the vision vanished, and a massive book floated before me, glowing with an inner heavenly fire. The Book of Life. The registry of every soul that belonged to God. I watched as Jesus opened it. Pages turned, covered in glowing names, names of people who had truly surrendered their lives to him. But then I saw the blank spaces, the empty spots where names should have been. People who had been religious, who had been good, who had believed in a divine being, but had never truly chosen him. And then the worst sight of all, names fading. People who had once been on fire for the truth, who had known him, but had chosen the world, the comfort, the distraction, the sin. Their names blurred and dissolved, leaving nothing behind. Can they be saved? I whispered, desperate. Jesus turned to me, his eyes filled with deep sorrow. As long as they have breath, they have a chance, but soon the time will end. I was sick with the knowledge. How many people, religious and secular alike, are living their lives convinced they are safe when they are moments away from losing their eternity? Then, the ground shook again, and a figure stood before us, shining brighter than the sun, a being of absolute authority, an angel. His voice echoed, shaking the very foundations of the light. The time is near. The judgment is coming. Many will be lost. My heart hammered against my ribs. Is there anything we can do? The angel looked at Jesus, who nodded. Tell them, the angel commanded. Tell them to turn back before the door closes forever. A deep, bone-weary sadness filled me. I knew the world wouldn't listen. I knew my own family would call me insane, an apostate, a betrayer of my people. They would say, "We have time. God is merciful. He wouldn't send anyone to hell." They would keep living like nothing was wrong. Jesus spoke again, his voice now urgent, full of powerful love. Tell them, Layla. Tell them what you have seen. Tell them the truth of my love and the truth of what awaits those who refuse it. And with those words, I was pulled backward, a terrifying, inescapable force dragging me away from the light. Wait! I screamed in my spirit, I don't want to leave. But it was too late. I felt my body again, the crushing weight of it, the searing pain in my chest, the burning ache of my bruised face. I gasped, air rushing into my lungs, the sound deafening in the sudden reality. Voices screamed around me. We have a pulse. BP is stabilizing. She's back. I opened my eyes, the harsh, white hospital lights blinding me. Medical personnel were hovering over me. I had been gone for less than 5 minutes, 3 of which were spent without a heartbeat, according to the monitor records. 5 minutes, and I had seen eternity. I was not the same woman who had been struck down. My mind was seared with the visions, the screams, the book of life, the angel's warning. I tried to sit up, desperate to tell the frantic nurses and doctors, but they gently pushed me back. Layla, you are stable now. Just rest. They wouldn't understand. They would think it was a drug-induced dream, a trauma-induced hallucination. But I knew the truth. I had been given a second chance, not for myself, but for them, for everyone. I had been sent back to warn the world. The days after my return were a living hell on earth. I couldn't sleep. The nightmares were immediate, dark shadows whispering my failures, showing me the abyss, the faces I saw screaming. I was immediately under attack. The doubts came like a flood. It was just the trauma. You lost oxygen. Your husband will kill you for this conversion. I knew the source of those thoughts. They were the whispers of the enemy, the demonic forces I had seen, trying to silence the witness. The more I spoke of Jesus, the worse the attacks became. I would wake up completely paralyzed, a dark presence suffocating the air, whispering threats about my family's honor, about my shame. But then I remembered the light. I remembered the authority in his voice. The next time the shadow came, I forced the words out, a name that was not my own, but was now my shield. In the name of Jesus, leave. And instantly it was gone. The enemy has no power over those who truly belong to him. I had been raised in a certainty that was now proven wrong. I had followed a set of rules, but had missed the living God. The realization that my entire foundation had been a beautiful, sincere, yet ultimately misplaced devotion was a pain deeper than the attack itself. I had to let go of everything. My identity, my family, my community, my safety, to cling only to the one whose eyes had held me with unconditional love. I started talking, not just to the hospital staff, who listened with polite skepticism, but to anyone who would hear. I spoke to the nurses, to the cleaning staff, to the doctors. I told them about the love that transcends law, the grace that covers all deeds. I told them about the absolute reality of hell and the overwhelming peace of heaven. My true battle began when I was discharged. My husband was facing charges, but the real enemy was the spiritual and cultural prison I was returning to. I was immediately an outcast. My family and community, upon hearing my testimony, upon hearing me speak the name of Jesus as God and Savior, declared me dead to them, a disgrace, an apostate. The threats were immediate and chilling. My conversion was not a quiet theological shift. It was a devastating earthquake that shattered my world. But I didn't stop. I had seen the faces of regret in the fire. I had seen the names fading from the book of life. I had seen the terrifying truth of what awaits those who ignore the clear, final call of God. I write this now in 2025, a refugee from my own life, a woman who has lost everything but gained the one thing that truly matters. I am not afraid of their threats or their judgment. I did my job, I told you. Jesus is real. He is God, the Son, the Lord, the way, the truth, and the life. Heaven is real. Hell is real. And the book of life is open right now, waiting for your name to be written in permanent, glorious light. Most people today, just like the people I saw in my final vision, think they have plenty of time. They think they can wait, or that God is too merciful to judge. But I saw the door. I saw it standing firm, and I saw the desperate souls who missed their chance. Please don't wait. Don't brush this off as a story. Don't tell yourself you'll think about it later, or that your current faith is enough. I believed my faith was enough, and I was seconds away from an eternity of regret. Jesus is calling you right now, this instant, with a love that can cover every sin, every mistake, every misplaced belief. The time is running out. The door will close. Choose him now.